Happy Saturday. This is like my fifth take, but it's okay. There's a lot here today. Today's reading is Luke 7, 1 through 17. And authority is kind of like the overall theme in the first part of this chapter. So just to recap, chapter 6, Sermon on the Mount, he has his team of 12. They're a traveling ministry. He's on the move. And as they're moving on to the next town, some Israelites come up to Jesus and they implore him to help this Roman soldier who they say is a really good man. And he's in trouble. His son is really sick. And they say, you need to help him. And that alone is interesting because the Bible makes sure that we understand this is the son of a Roman soldier. Now, the Roman soldiers, they weren't really friends with the Israelites because, it's an occupying force. The Israelites, they're somewhere between, indentured servants or like they're just occupied, where the Romans, they're large and in charge, and they want you to know it. It's weighty. They want you to know they are over you. And here it is, a Roman soldier is being described as, quote, a good man. And he has relationships with these common Israelite people. So that's why they're saying, go to this guy. He's a great guy. He needs help. It's interesting. What is also interesting is this idea of authority. He is a humble person, and he knows a couple of things. Number one, he understands himself. So he says certain things about himself that I want you to read in the text and understand that. Some of the things he says about himself, I would propose that if you said that in today's culture, they might encourage you to seek counseling because maybe you have a self-esteem issue, right? And I'm serious about this, right? Because it is really taboo today to allow negative thinking about oneself to enter our minds. It's almost like, ooh, that's the worst thing we could do. Is that really unhealthy? That's something we could talk about offline because it could be. I'm not saying it can't be, but there is a healthy way and a humble way to understand our own unworthiness, or that the world doesn't revolve around us, or that we have real deep spiritual need. I would say it's actually very healthy. Okay. So this Roman soldier understands something about himself. I want you to notice that. And more importantly, he understands some things about Jesus. And he understands the concept of authority. So he gives a parallel to how he instructs people under his authority to go do it, and they do it. He tells them to come, and they come. So he says to Jesus, please, you don't even have to come. I'm unworthy for you to come to my house. Just say the word. If you just say the word, I know you're going to heal my son. Wow. Now that's different because this now ushers in the first time where Jesus would perform a miracle without being physically present. See, these are the things I want you to, as you read, build up to what is really happening, right? This isn't like I'm going to touch the leper, which showed humanity of Jesus, but there's proximity. Now, Jesus is about to do something where he doesn't have to be there. Whoa. So Jesus says, I've never seen such great faith even in Israel, which is another interesting comment. Because Jesus' kingdom is broader than just the religious preferred people of the nation of Israel. Jesus came to call people from every tribe and every nation, men, women, slave, free. And that's part of the reasons that the religious leaders hated him. So there's a lot of things going on in this story. Then the second story is really interesting too, and that is there's this widow who has one son and he just died. He was sick and he had died. He's not sick, he was sick and is now dead. And the general rule, as in our human experience, and it was true back then just as it is now, and that is that dead things stay dead. Okay? And now when we think of this idea of authority, Jesus has authority to do a healing that's something happening away from him, not even in proximity. And now Jesus does something even crazier. right? So he's healed people in close proximity. He has cast out spirits, authority. He has forgiven sins. The paralytic, they wanted to kill him because of that. Who are you to forgive sins? Authority. Now he heals a person from far away. Authority. And the ultimate authority is now Jesus is going to take a dead person and bring them back to life. Now, if you're interested, there's 3 times Jesus heals someone from the dead. It's this encounter with the widow's son. It'll be in the next chapter when Jesus brings back to life Jairus' daughter who had just died, okay? And then almost as if God wants to put an exclamation point, lest some people think, well, back in first century, they didn't have good medicine. They probably weren't really dead. They were probably like unconscious, like really sick. And then Jesus was able to kind of heal them, right? Well, if you're in that camp, the writer, Luke, wants you to understand, and in the other gospel accounts, they all agree. They give you the Lazarus story, right? Lazarus was dead for days. Days. He's in a tomb. His skin smells. He's decomposing. And those aren't details that are just like interesting. They're significant details. God's not giving us room to think that maybe these dead people aren't really dead, because Lazarus kind of cleared that one up pretty well. Did it really happen? Right? It's a safe place. And this is where people who follow Jesus and say he was a good teacher, he's a person who gives us a good example of how to live. But then this is where they break off and they just say, I just can't accept that. I just can't believe that. That's fair. It's intellectually fair. But this is the claim that the text is saying, that he actually did it. Now, if he did it, if he actually did it, what's the significance of that? If Jesus has authority over death itself, how glorious could that be? And if he's demonstrating authority over death, what does that mean in his own death and resurrection? What does it mean when you and I one day breathe our last and we die in these physical bodies? What does Jesus' authority over death mean for us? You see, it matters what we believe about these things, if these things really happened or if these are just good folklore stories. So lean in, take it in, pray, and ask God to reveal some amazing, wonderful things to you. I am so happy you guys are doing this with me. Have a great Saturday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.